Thank you so much. What a great gathering of Mississippians. Scott and Blake, thank you, and thank all in MEC for hosting this great event. We do have a number of VIPs and distinguished guests from around the world. Two I would like to introduce to you at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, Continental Tire is the fourth largest tire manufacturer on planet Earth. They're rapidly moving up that food chain toward number one. And we're very honored today to have in Mississippi two leaders of Continental Tire. I'd like to ask them to stand. We have the Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer of Continental Tire, Mr. Tim Rogers. Welcome, Tim. And we also have the Director of Government Relations and Communications for Continental Tire North America. Please welcome Ms. April Allen. Thank you so much.
At this time, it is really my great pleasure to introduce someone that I've had the opportunity to work side by side with for the last 11 years. Somebody that I consider a game changer in the state of Mississippi for making things happen. Please welcome President and CEO of MEC, Blake Wilson.
Well, I'm back from the cold north with a bad cold. My wife had her sixth surgery in follow-up for some complications for ocular melanoma yesterday, and she's doing great. And so she's still up there, and I'll go back up this weekend and join her. But I want to tell you that appreciate everybody's prayers, and we're taking it a day at a time, and things are going pretty well. Well, I'm here today as part of our bicentennial celebration. And I've got three staffers who want to come up and help me out with a little project. Come on up. We've got, come on around in front. You can stand in front of me. Don't open it yet. Don't open it yet. Don't open it yet. Okay, stand in front. Step in front, right in front. Just don't fall off the stage. I don't want a workers' comp claim. Okay, this is Jason Word, Kelly Boutwell, and Kathy Northington. Kathy runs this whole event. Doesn't she do a great job? She worries about everything. She's just been promoted. She's going to be Senior Vice President and CAO here at MEC, and we're delighted about that. She's worked hard, runs our leadership program. Kelly Boutwell runs our membership and sales operation. She's going to be taking over additional responsibilities, has just gotten a promotion to VP, and she just came back from Austin, Texas, where she and her team won a national award for the greatest membership growth in the nation among state chambers of commerce. Isn't that great? And Jason Word, our manager of programs here at MEC, has just been honored by 100 Black Men of Jackson as the Mentor of the Year. So important, Mentor of the Year. So, this is the new leadership of Mississippi. Guys like me are going to be heading into retirement, and our younger folks are the folks that are going to be taking over for all of us. And so in celebrating the bicentennial this year, we wanted to have a banner just like the American bicentennial did back in 1976 that we can all fly. Now, you can fly it with your federal flag, you can fly it with your Mississippi state flag, you can fly it all by itself, you can hang it up in your break room. It is a banner, not a flag. It's got writing on it. But we hope that you'll celebrate the bicentennial with us. We're going to make these available to you. You'll be hearing more about it in the next coming months. But with that, let's have a drum roll. Can we have a drum roll? The bicentennial banner. Look in the back and look here, the MEC bicentennial banner. And we hope you'll all fly it. And there it is, flying in the back. So we're excited about it. You'll be hearing more as the year goes on. So take care and congratulations, team.
Thank you, Blake. I'm going to provide one more Mississippi fact before we get to our final three speakers, which will lead us up to our very important red and blue Mississippi panel. And this has to do with transportation, an issue that MEC has been very involved with, because what I've learned in my research, when looking at what has happened in Mississippi across the last 200 years, Mississippi has long been a leader when it comes to transportation and ways to improve our roadways. In fact, in 1913, the Good Roads movement began as a way for Mississippians to really push for creating new roads, because at that time was when you were starting to see an increased use of automobiles across the state. 1 year later, the first paved roads in the state of Mississippi happened. It was an 11.5-mile stretch on what is now Highway 45 in Lee County. In 1987, the AHEAD four-lane program was formed, designed to put a four-lane highway within 30 miles of every Mississippian. This was created thanks to the business community's strong support and the leadership of our state leaders to make sure that it was easy to access all parts of the state for our citizens, but more importantly, it created great economic development opportunities. Then, in 2014, as part of MEC's Blueprint Mississippi, MEC worked with business leaders across the state to do an extensive study looking at the needs of our transportation system. This task force was led by Joe Sanderson, Jr., CEO of Sanderson's Farms, and the research led to the development of the Accelerate Mississippi Initiative, a funding recommendation to deal with repair and maintenance of roads and bridges in our state. I encourage you to stop by the MEC booth because we have some information on the Accelerate program. Accelerate focuses on common sense solutions that create real jobs, real opportunities, and protect all Mississippians. So now we're getting to the meat of our program, so I invite you to find a seat and be prepared to listen to our state leaders as they come. Our next speaker is Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn. When Speaker Gunn was selected by his peers to serve as Speaker of the House, his goal was to create a business-friendly environment where companies could grow and prosper. In his first year in office, he introduced and pushed legislation to reform the state's workers' comp laws in order to ensure fairness both for businesses and the employees. Today, he continues to focus on ways to create a stable environment that has a tax structure that entices business to locate and expand in Mississippi. He's placed emphasis on improving workforce development and increasing job awareness opportunities for our citizens. He also understands that workforce and education go hand in hand. He introduced and pushed and got passed the first significant teacher pay raise in over a decade and continues to work to get more dollars to the classroom. He continues to think outside the box and finding ways to reform education to give all Mississippi children a chance to succeed regardless of where they live. Speaker Gunn's passion to see Mississippi grow and prosper is rooted in his competitive nature. He began sharpening these leadership skills as a quarterback at Baylor University, and those lessons have carried over in the work he's doing with all members of the Mississippi House of Representatives to find solutions to the issues facing our state. Please join me in welcoming Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn.
Antiquated, confusing, inefficient, unreliable, unpredictable. What do these words describe? They describe the Mississippi Adequate Education Program funding formula. This formula has failed. This formula has failed to give our schools a predictable stream of revenue upon which they can budget. This formula has failed to ensure that money reaches the classroom. This formula has failed because it allows spending on administration to be abused. The formula does not meet the needs of today's education. Today's technology is better. Today's teaching methods are better. The opportunity for learning is better. So we need a better formula. The time has come for us to find a funding formula that works. We need a formula that provides a predictable stream of revenue so that our schools can budget better. We need a formula that is based on the needs of the students, not the needs of the adults. We need a formula that is student-oriented, not program-oriented. We need a formula that's based upon focusing on student achievement and improving student achievement. We need a better formula. Over the last 5 years, your legislature has put more money into education every year. And last year, your legislature put more money into education than any year ever in the history of the state of Mississippi. However, the current funding formula does not ensure that the money reaches the classroom. We want to see the money in the classroom. We want the money to go to improving student achievement. We want to see results. We want a better formula. The bottom line is this: if you're really concerned about improving public education in Mississippi, you will agree that the time has come for a better formula. We are grateful for others who agree with us and have had the courage to come forward and say that. People like the Mississippi Association of School Superintendents and MEC, who agree that now is the time for a better formula. Even so, we have some people who want to stay in the past. We don't want to do that. We have some people who are satisfied with the status quo. We are not. It's time to bring common sense and fairness to the way we fund our public schools. It's time to give our schools a funding formula that they can count on. It's time to put the students first. It's time for a better funding formula. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We appreciate you being with us today. Our next speaker is Lieutenant Governor Tate Reeves. Since taking the office in 2012, Lieutenant Governor Reeves has had a fairly simple philosophy. When he looks at legislation, he asks, does it create jobs and does it grow the economy? As a result, he's been a champion for creating better business climate here in the state through the passage of major tax legislation, including last year's Mississippi taxpayer pay raise, which will phase out the corporate franchise tax, a tax that is a penalty on your success. He also has worked with MEC to correct administrative issues and on how taxes are assessed and create a balanced playing field for all Mississippians. He understands we can grow our economy by creating a strong workforce and continues to look for ways for Mississippi to do this and make sure our citizens have the skills necessary to succeed. But more importantly, he knows that this starts with a partnership between the public and private sector, so our citizens are getting the type of training that really does qualify them for the jobs of the future. He has looked for innovative ways to improve education in our state, give students new opportunities to excel in the classroom, and understands that all Mississippi children deserve that chance to succeed. He has done this by improving schools, by consolidating resources, putting a premium on strong leadership. He was at the lead for pushing for and getting past legislation that requires all superintendents of education in the state to be appointed by 2019. This was a long-held MEC position. Now listen, while his philosophy of does it create jobs and grow the economy may seem simplistic, in reality it's taken a lot of hard work, a lot of team building, and a lot of trust with members of the Senate for the Lieutenant Governor to make sure these things have happened and to put in place initiatives that are really meeting that criteria. Please join me in welcoming Lieutenant Governor Tate Reeves.
Thank y'all. Thank you. Thanks, Bob. Always a pleasure to be here with the Mississippi Economic Council at Hobnob. It's been an interesting year, a great year. And I don't know, did anyone, when you came in the fairgrounds here today and maybe went to the restroom earlier, notice any improvements around here? I want to tell you that Commissioner Cindy Hyde-Smith has led the charge to improve the quality of this facility. She has worked tirelessly to do it, and I think we should all give her a round of applause. And I think you've just seen the beginning. So Commissioner Hyde-Smith, thank you very much for your efforts. You know, it's been a very positive year in Mississippi, despite what you may have read. We've made some tremendous progress in a lot of different ways. You've heard me say this before, and you'll hear me say it again. I believe that our #1 priority in state government is job creation, bringing better and higher paying jobs to our state. But I also believe, and I have a core political philosophy, which says government does not create jobs. Government's role is to create an environment that encourages you in the private sector to invest capital and create jobs. And every single bill that's come before my desk in the last 5 years, that's the question I ask. If we pass this legislation, and oh, by the way, there's been over 15,000 bills filed in the Mississippi legislature in the last 5 years. But when that bill comes to my desk, I ask the question, if we pass this bill, is it going to help us create that environment which encourages private sector job growth? If the answer to that question is yes, well, we fight really, really, really hard to make sure that bill becomes law of the land in our state. If, however, the answer to that question is no, or in too many instances, we don't know, then we fight equally as hard to make sure that bill does not become law of the land in the great state of Mississippi. When you talk about creating that environment, the obvious next question is, what is it that creates that environment? I believe there are 3 primary areas. #1, if we're going to create that environment, we must have a fiscally responsible government. No business, your business or any other business, is going to locate in an area in which the government is irresponsible with your money. You see, the reason you won't locate there is because if they're irresponsible with your money, the likelihood that your taxes are going to go up in the future is relatively high. And as you know, to you, taxes are nothing more than a cost of doing business. If your cost of doing business goes up, your ability to be competitive goes down. So we're going to have a fiscally responsible government. I've been talking about it for 13 years now, and we're going to continue to fight for it. We have a truly balanced budget that only spends recurring revenue for recurring expenditures. We're going to continue down that path, and despite revenue challenges in fiscal year 2016, because growth was not as high as the revenue experts suggested it would, despite those revenue challenges in 2016, today we still have the 3rd largest rainy day fund in the history of our state, having in excess of $300 million set aside for a rainy day. We have been and we will continue to be fiscally responsible with the dollars you send us. Secondly, if we're going to create that environment, we must have a tax code that is fair, one that is flat, one that encourages economic development, not one that discourages it. That's the reason we led the charge this year, working closely with Speaker Gunn and Governor Bryant to pass the largest tax cut in Mississippi history, called the Taxpayer Pay Raise Act, such that every person in our state that pays individual income taxes will get a tax break over the next 5 years, and that we no longer, once fully implemented, will tax capital in your business through the corporate franchise tax. You see, we have a core political philosophy which says if you want more of something, you ought to tax it less. We need more capital investment in our state. Therefore, we're on a path to tax capital less in small businesses across our state. Now, we have a very different political view than folks on the other side of the aisle. You see, there are some on the other side of the aisle that believe, and I'm sure very sincerely, they believe that government is entitled to 100% of everything that you earn, and that anything they allow you to keep, you ought to be thankful for it. And then there are those of us that believe as I do, and our philosophy is like this. We believe that government doesn't have anything that it does not first take from someone else. And we believe that if we allow you to keep more of your money, it will be good for you individually, it'll be good for our economy in the long term. The third area, if we're going to create that environment which encourages private sector job growth, that we must improve on, is we must improve the educational attainment level of our citizens. The Speaker talked about one of the initiatives that we are working on jointly with members of the legislature, with members of both parties, and we will continue to do so. But we have had some successes in public education, and we ought to spend more time talking about those successes. We've done things like the third grade gate. We've done things like focused on reading and focusing on literacy. We spent nearly $50 million in hiring reading coaches to help kids learn how to read by the time they leave the third grade, because we believe very strongly that from kindergarten to third grade, students need to be learning to read. But once they leave the third grade, they no longer need to be learning to read. They need to be reading to learn. If you're not able to read when you leave the third grade, the likelihood that you're going to be able to do your math and your science homework in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade is relatively low. And the likelihood that you're going to become a statistic by a dropout when you're in the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade is relatively high. We've invested in public education. We'll spend over $400 million more in public ed this year than was spent the year before I became lieutenant governor. We've done things like focused on getting more money in the classroom by eliminating school districts. Nearly 13, once fully implemented, will have been eliminated in the last 5 years. We have done things like ensuring that when we increase funding that we did it for a teacher pay raise, such that starting teachers before any local supplement in Mississippi make $34,490 a year in Mississippi, which puts us in the top 2 or 3 in the entire southeastern region. The focus on raising the level of expectations in education, we've talked about it, but what I want you to know today is that it is actually working. You know, sometimes you don't get to read in the newspaper about the things that are going well. Someone said, our governor used to say often, that the press doesn't cover airplanes that land safely. But when it comes to public education in Mississippi, we're seeing tremendous progress. When we started 5 years ago, the national average for graduation rates was 82%. Mississippi at that time was 70.5%. Last year, the national average graduation rate was 82%. It has not changed in the last 5 years. In Mississippi, our graduation rate has improved from 70.5 to 80.8%, over a 10-point uptick in graduation rates in our state. 4th grade reading and 4th grade math on the NAEP scores in the most recent data, NAEP said Mississippi was the only state in the country that saw significant improvement in both 4th grade reading and 4th grade math. In addition to that, students that were considered economically disadvantaged in Mississippi on their 4th grade NAEP scores last year scored at the national average. Now, at the national average is not good enough, but it's better than we've scored since they started keeping score on the NAEP scores. We're seeing significant improvement, and while I would love to stand here and take credit for every one of them, the fact of the matter is the people who deserve the credit in our state for the improved educational outcomes, all we've done is raise the level of expectations. The true people who deserve the credit are the administrators, the teachers in the classroom, the parents, and most importantly, our students in Mississippi. You see, when you raise the level of expectations, Mississippians rise up and meet those increased expectations. We in Mississippi need to spend a lot less time apologizing and a lot more time bragging on the positive successes that are going on here. I believe that if we continue to focus on creating that environment, if we continue to provide opportunities for you to invest in your people and for you to invest in our economy, we will see continued and improved GDP growth and continue and improved economy, and we'll continue to make Mississippi an even better place to invest capital, to create jobs, and most importantly, to raise a family. Thank y'all for what you do to make our economy better. Thank you for what you do to make our state better. Thank you, and God bless.
We always look forward to this event, share a little bit of our record, but also some of the issues the state's facing when it comes to financial management, misappropriation, and embezzlement issues that the business community can help get behind, get good legislation passed. We're going to be calling on some better management of our federal programming dollars that are coming into Mississippi when it comes to mismanagement, misappropriation, having trained staff in place. It's one of the weaknesses we have uncovered and found in the last several years, and so we're asking the business community today to help us as a state from accountability, from responsibility, make sure that we have trained, accountable individuals when it comes to managing not just our state tax dollars, but our federal tax dollars.
Tell us a little bit about the importance of the business community getting involved in the political process.
Well, not only the fact these are the voters, but these are employers. These are folks from across the state who have folks that work for them that influence, help get the message out that they need to be involved in the political process locally, state, and at the federal level. We got a presidential election this year, as we all know, and the business community, the business leaders can help motivate people to be involved to make sure our voice is heard every election, local, state, and federal.
It is such an economic driver here. 30% of the jobs here in Mississippi are related to agriculture. And I was reading something this morning that, just in the southeast, agriculture produces more income than all the major passenger airlines combined. And you think about that in the southeast, just there, that all the airlines in the industry, that we have a bigger economic footprint than them. And then in the country, when you combine globally, when you combine Google, IBM, and Apple, and Microsoft, we are right below that nationally in the country. So $40 billion for the Southeast and over $400 billion for the country, an economic impact in agriculture, because, we're going to eat every day. We may not play golf, we may not some days ride in a car, but we're going to eat every day. And that's the reason our job is so important. And to feed a growing population, there's a lot of challenges out there, and we just enjoy doing it every day, but it is serious business, but it is a profitable business for the country.
This is one of the best events we do. We do numerous events, but this one just is a little more casual, laid back, a lot of fun because people come, they're able to, as I say, hobnob at Hobnob, Mississippi. They get to catch up with people. Folks from all over the state come in for this event, and it's really just a wonderful day.
If people have questions like more information about MEC, what should they do?
They could just simply go to our website, which is mec.ms, mec.ms.